That's a toad, brother. Golly. What's up, guys? Welcome to today's video. I am still at home, and if you're at home in Tennessee and you have the ability to give my guest today a call and he'll go fishing with you, you take it. That's none other than Mr. Rus Snyders. Russ is one of only two-time KBF Anglers of the Year and was literally a half a shad away from being a 3-time Angler of the Year. Dude's got so many accolades. We would spend the rest of the video talking about it. We'll be talking to him throughout the video today. Whatever fish he catches, we'll get the insights as to where, when, why. He's also launching his YouTube channel, starting to put a lot more effort into the social media stuff. So I'll link all that stuff up in the description box. But we're back home in Tennessee, Old Hickory Lake. What's funny is we see each other all over the country, but very rarely see each other here. So we're ever here at the same time.
We're on the road so much.
Yeah, so anyway, so I messaged Russ and said, hey man, I need some juice on Old Hickory. He's like, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, I guess we're fishing together. He's like, sounds good to me. He's like, dude, I'm gonna book it. Don't tell me you're gonna fish if we're not gonna fish. I was like, how about this? It's a little cold, so let's not get out there at daylight. Yeah. So it's about 8:30. We met at the ramp at 8, and yeah, Russ, you want to tell them as much as you want to tell them about where we're at.
Yeah, so we're on Old Hickory. It's early March, you know, and it's been a pretty cold winter with a lot of rain. We're in a little backwater here, but the water's up, and you know that main river was pretty stained, but now it's clearing up a little.
I can see logs all out in front of us.
Yeah, we got wood, we got rock. It's a pretty deep backwater too. It's got about 12-15 feet of water. It's a really good area for them to stage up before they spawn. They spawn here a lot too because of the hard bottom. And but hopefully we can get some of those pre-spawn females sitting out a little bit deeper on that deeper rock and wood.
So Russ, what are you thinking? Let me start this off by saying this. For the last literally month, I have been wrecking them on the spinnerbait from Florida to Georgia to South Carolina, and even yesterday when I got home and got out on Old Hickory for a couple hours, we caught them really good on the spinnerbait. So what are you thinking today? What's your mindset for what lure progression are you going to go through?
Well, spinnerbait, I caught my biggest bass on Old Hickory actually on a spinnerbait in this area. It was just under 8 pounds, and that could definitely be a player. It's pretty calm right now, so might need a little bit of wind. I think the wind's supposed to pick up a little bit in the afternoon, but I've done really good here on chatterbaits, Alabama rigs, jerk baits. The water looks just clear enough to throw a jerk bait, so that's something I'm about to tie on right now. But yeah, if we need to, we'll drag some plastics and stuff too, but I'm hoping we can get a reaction bite going.
So honestly, I'm the same way. In fact, 2 videos ago I would have talked about the fact that when there's no wind, it's really hard to get a spinnerbait bite, which is why I like to downsize to a lot more lighter wire and up your blade number and down your blade size. And that has a tendency to get me a lot of bites even when there isn't wind, because again, conventional wisdom is you got to have wind to get a good spinnerbait bite. Man, for the last 3 trips, I've downsized to either that True South or the accent bait. I caught a couple on that, and the Z-Man sling blade. All 3 of those light wire baits with the smaller blades have produced even without a lot of wind. So gotcha. I'm gonna go down with the ship and try to catch them.
I think it still work. We got enough stained water. That water's pretty stained. So,
yeah.
I can still see him eating that spinnerbait.
All right, here we go, guys. We're gonna see what works and what don't. All right, so the water's a little deeper than I thought it was gonna be, and I'm finding a lot of isolated cover and boulders out in 5 to 7 foot of water. So I am going to throw this spinnerbait a little bit longer, but I think I'm going to switch to a red crankbait, and kind of with this a little bit more stained water and those fish being out a little deeper potentially, I'm going to try to run that crankbait into stuff and basically hit them in the face and make them eat it as a reaction bite whether they want to or not, which is what I'm trying to do with this spinnerbait. But honestly, I think this might be one of those days where I've got to put down the old jingle and pick up the crank. It's kind of been my go-to for the last month, is if I feel like I'm square pegging it with the square peg round holing it with the spinnerbait, I pick up the crankbait or the chatterbait and do really well. Chatterbait bite's kind of been weird for the last, but I've been changing locations. So yeah, I'm gonna throw this spinnerbait a little bit longer, but I'm looking at the graph and looking at the lay of the land, and just looks crankbait juicy. All right, so I said I was gonna throw the crankbait, but then it started to shallow up, and Russ said there's a creek arm that comes in the back here, and it looks like there's actually two. So I'm gonna stick with the spinnerbait a little more, working this shallow stuff back here, and then we'll work back out there, and I'll probably pick the crankbait up when we get back out there looking for that stuff offshore. All right, so a few videos ago, I told a lot of you guys to abruptly stop your spinnerbait so it flat sides and it hits the surface. And I'm a big fan of doing that when there's a little bit of wind, or if you've got a deeper drop off on the bank. When you've got these long, shallow, tapered banks where, you know, the water's about 2 inches deep near the bank and it's only a foot, you know, 20 feet from the bank, you don't really want to do that. What you want to do is you want to make a long cast, and you want to slow it down with your thumb and feather the landing. And I'll show you exactly kind of how I want to do it. I just landed in some grass back there, but I'll cut to the back camera view to show you what I'm talking about here. But basically you want to make that cast, and then just about the time that it's landing, you feather it and raise your rod tip and have it running pretty much as it hits the water. So when you got a little bit of wind, or if you got deeper banks and you want to simulate those fish blowing up on bait, you can flat side it and make it clank. When you've got shallow water, no wind, the fish aren't that active, and you got to land it in there in that super shallow water, you don't want to spook them. So you want to make a cast, and as it's starting to hit, just about the time it hits the water, you just apply increasing pressure to the spool to slow it down. And just as it hits the water, I mean literally simultaneously with it hitting the water, you want it to land and be running. And that's a lot more subtle. And I can't tell you how many times I've thrown a spinnerbait in a foot from the bank, made 2 cranks of the reel handle, and got murdered by a monster bass. So wind blowing up against the bank, creating some commotion, fish chasing bait, throw it in there, and right before it hits the water, just abruptly stop it, and it'll flat side and smack the water. Raise your rod tip, and that looks like that fish heard something blow up, looks up and sees that bait fleeing, and they want to compete for it. When it's quiet and you want to make a subtle presentation, you want to throw that thing in there and feather it, and then have it running just as it hits the water. And if the fish had read the script, they would have hit right there before the video, but apparently today they haven't read the script. Yeah, we're already starting to get just a little bit of ripple. That's all you need for the spinnerbait bite to really excel. But once it starts to get even more, and you get a good little consistent surface ripple, that's what's money. So let's talk about why that actually happens. So a lot of people say, oh yeah, you can't get a spinnerbait bite that well on a calm day, but I don't think folks actually understand why that happens. And the reason that happens is, if you ever go underwater and you look up at the surface, if there isn't any wind, the surface actually looks like a mirror, okay? And so if you've got something silver reflecting against something silver, it doesn't stand out really well. A lot of really accomplished spinnerbait anglers will throw colored blades or like a colored kicker blade in those scenarios, and it'll stand out a little bit more. And then they'll even do the same thing when the wind kicks up. But those white blades, chartreuse, white chartreuse, gold with a red or orange kicker, that really stands out when that fish is looking up against that mirror, and it makes it easier for them to track the bait and target it. So one of the reasons that spinnerbaits don't fare as well when it's calm is it makes the surface like a mirror. Once there's a little bit of disturbance and the fish are looking up, it's all broken up, and that spinnerbait sticks out a lot better. So just a little bit of insight as to why that is. But again, even with light winds and a slicked out surface, I like to throw these baits that have multiple blades on them, and when you pull them, they can pulse, okay? You notice here, this simulates when it's in the water. When I pull on that thing, it squeezes that wire. Well, the same thing happens in the water. It pulses, and you'll get that blade to click that trailer hook, and you can start it and stop it, and that flash really makes that fish be able to see that spinnerbait a lot better. It looks like a scattered small school of bait fish. It's basically like a subtle A-rig is what it is. It's like a little tiny little A-rig, but with only 2 hooks instead of 5. Come on, fish.
There's one. GoPro's first. All right. Choke it. There we go. That's how you want them to eat it right there. Right in the middle, just T-boned it. It's a good start. We've only been out here a few minutes, so that's a good sign of things to come and get a few more. Crankbait I'm using here is a Spro Little John. It's got flat sides on it. I really like it in the early spring. It's a red one, that orange belly, black top, really common color this time of year when that water's between 50 and 60 degrees. It's got a circuit board lip on it right here, and it gets down about 3 to 4 feet. It deflects good off of cover, but having those flat sides is what's really important in that cold weather. And it's got actually a rubber coated ball in it, so it doesn't have that really hard knock that some, you know, like a stainless steel ball would have. It's more just like a little subtle knocking noise. Throwing it on an iRod, 7-foot composite rod. It's a Gabe's Rip Wrap Special, and throwing it with 15-pound mono. Whenever I'm throwing my square bills, since I'm not making, you know, usually that long a cast, I kind of like that extra stretch, and also that mono casts a lot better than fluorocarbon. So and when you're throwing square bills, whether it's on rip wrap or on wood laydowns, having those nice accurate casts is nice. Using that mono, I think, really helps.
Well guys, we made the move to get to a little bit more isolated, a little bit warmer water. It paid off with both of us catching a fish and not having a skunk. So I caught one decent fish and one really small fish. But now the wind has picked up like crazy. Looks like that front's making its way here. We might have 30 minutes to an hour of productive fishing, and then it looks like we are going to get blown off the water. Even if we wanted to stay, my daughter's on the way here and Russ has to be at a meeting at 4 o'clock. So our day is getting cut short either way, but we got out here, got some time on the water, figured a few things out, and did what you really call a spot check, which is where you check a spot to see what the water temperature is, have the fish moved in, is there bait fish there, what's the water clarity, you know, things like that. And that's all cumulative towards, you know, figuring out what other places that are similar may be productive, or making an adjustment and going to a place that's better overall. So this is all part of it. If you want to be if you want to catch fish consistently, you have to be consistently willing to not catch fish. That's just how it works. I talk about it all the time. It's the time on the water concept. Over the years, I've really done a lot of these trips and filmed them and not shared them with you guys. But this year we're going to share it. We're going to share the highs, the lows, the yeses, the nos, everything in the middle. So still swinging for the fences, still trying to get that one more fish. We got probably the best spot in this spot left coming up right here. Russ is drifting into a juicy spot, and we're swinging for the fences, baby. Hero or zero time. Mandatory, and then there's also a charity tournament that I've got going on right now called the Fish Ops Catch 5. Oh, hey, hold on a second. All right, guys, I got a fish right here. And, oh, dude, this is a good fish. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on. Oh, let's get this guy in the net. Let's get this guy in the net. Oh, look at that fish right there. Well, guys, since yesterday I was kind of a dummy and I didn't record my fish for the Catch 22 challenge for the state of Tennessee, this will be my first fish on the board for the Catch 22. All right, this guy is 16 and a half. So there you go. Let me snap a photo real quick. All right, guys, that's a pretty good fish right there.